Hello and welcome. It is All for United. We are back once again for all of you Manchester United needs. It's literally why we're here. So good to see you already. If you're in the chat, we've already got people saying stick McTominay forward. We'll get there, guys. Don't worry. We'll get there. And good evening to you, Mr. Andrew of the Wall. Well, we've assembled a star-studded panel once again, ready to discuss all things Fulham. It's a Saturday 3:00 kickoff. I've forgotten what those things were like. So rare that we seem to get these things nowadays. But either way, let's check in and see how everyone's getting on. Right-hand man on the left-hand side, as over there, is Mr. Danfield. How you doing, sir?
Well, living the dream as always. Bit of worrying news today in terms of injuries, etc. But we're getting used to this now.
Yeah, just a bit. I've got some stats for you boys and girls on that one. I'll tell you that in a bit. But we'll save that for a little bit later on. Over there, underneath me, we've got the return of the Bean. He is back again. How you doing, sir?
All good, yeah. Friday night, innit? So I got that Friday feeling, you know. Looking forward to a good weekend of football, I hope.
Do you know what? Normally you'd say, thank God it's Friday, but it's the last Friday of half time. We get back to work on Monday, so I can't stand overjoyed as I normally am on a Friday, but there we are. And over here in the corner, you can see it's our Fulham interloper. She is here. Her name is Sarah from the Fulham Lilies. Lovely to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. And thanks for having me on. Pleasure to be here.
Well, pleasure to have you and thank you for joining us. Right, let's get to it. Even into NT, you're quite right. We can catch lots of breaks. We're just lucky they haven't been breaks, I suppose. Just muscles, but we'll get to those. Like I say, and hello, Andrew. Lovely to see you on Twitter as well. We're so glad you are with us this evening. Right, Dan. I suppose we should start with you because the last few weeks I sort of haven't started with you. I've moved away from you because, quite frankly, it's been boring listening to the same thing week after week. But we have something slightly different to talk about today because not only do we not have a registered left back able to choose from, we are struggling a little bit out front as well. We're going to get to positions and all that sort of jazz, but Fulham is a side that ordinarily we'd be looking at hoping we could get 3 points from. Do you feel comfortable or are you a little bit worried today?
It's a tough question because for as many injuries as we've got, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Paulinho is suspended, and that is a massive loss for Fulham. So as much as we can moan about the injuries that we're picking up, they are missing a huge part of their squad tomorrow, and he literally is the difference between them winning and losing sometimes. So I'm confident, but I'm not confident at the same time because it's Man United and it's been a really long season. It just can't get any worse for us in terms of injuries, really. I don't want to jinx it. I don't think. Do you know what? We're already jinxed, so there's no point, is there? But yeah, I was looking at some stats. We've not lost to Fulham since 2009. We've not lost a game at Old Trafford to Fulham since 2003. So it's been a while. So as much as we might not like it, we're definitely the favourites. So we should be coming away with a positive result.
Interesting views there. Interesting views. And you say you don't want to jinx us, but then went on to do it, which frankly is
can't jinx us anymore.
I'm not sure what you're playing out there, Dan. Andy, the game for you, it's one of those, isn't it? You'd hope it'd be one that United would get 3 points from. But even despite the fact we've had a really good run so far, we've had a good 2024, it's just got banana skin written all over it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I was a lot more confident this afternoon before I heard the news about Højlund. I don't like that mixes up our front line now because we're just starting to knit together, weren't they? Just starting to look nice together. And Lindelof at left back, I think I spoke last time I was on the show. You know, our lack of left back is a worry for me. But like Field says, we should be winning the game. I think if we just take everything out of it, we should be winning that game. And if we want top four, we've got to really.
Yeah, so I mean, Trelumba taking the words basically out of my mouth there. We're unpredictable. Wouldn't be surprised if we lost. It's one of those sort of things, you know, we're sort of building it up as we should do. Dan throwing it out, they haven't lost since 2009. Just a sort of statistic that comes rolling along the bottom of Sky Sports, just as you're losing 1-0. But we shall see. We'll see how we get on. Sarah, obviously you're the voice for Fulham this evening. I suppose for you guys, you've had some good games against us. You've had some atrocious games against us. It's one of those. What's your initial thoughts before we start getting into possible teams and all that sort of thing? Just as a fan, looking forward to tomorrow, do you feel like you've got a chance, or do you feel like it's a step too far for you tomorrow?
I think with the news, as you just said about Højlund, I think that, has given us a little bit of a possibility. I think if Polinia had been playing and him and Willian's also maybe a possible doubt for tomorrow, and without Højlund, I think, we have a really, really good chance. Polinia reaching his 10 yellow cards, having 2 game suspension, is going to hit us hard. And the possibility that Willian isn't playing, it is going to be a tough one for us. I think based on the last couple of games, I think the score it'll be a draw till the 90th minute, and Fernandez will score. That's the sort of thing that we're expecting. Or alternatively, 70th minute, we're winning 1-0, we all have a meltdown, and 27 players get sent off for Fulham.
Do you know what? I'll take it. If it's 0-0 and then Bruno Fernandes scores at the end. Right now, I'm at that point of the season where I was like, bite your hand off right now for that. But we shall see where it goes. Danny boy, I saw a tweet today. So this is unverified because there's no way I'm going through all of the games to see if this is factual. But I went through all of the people that are injured or have been injured over the course of the season, of which there's been 15. So you can almost put out a squad of players, just call them Injury FC. 8 defenders, 4 midfielders, 3 attackers. Malacia has missed 35 games. Ahmad, 27. Mount, 23. Martinez, 22. Mainu and Casemiro, 17 each. Shaw, 16. That's about to grow. Martial, 12, which for him is actually quite good. Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof, 10. Ericsson, nearly said Eminem there. That's my bad writing. Ericsson and Rasmus, 8. Amrabat, Maguire, 6. Evans and Varane, 5. That was, in terms of positions, 227 matches missed. Now, I know obviously that doesn't usually count. That's out of a possible 630 places. What that's basically telling me is that each time we've gone to pick a team, there has been a ridiculous number of people missing. And all of those names you could put an argument for playing in the first team. Now, I throw that out there really because that was my big research for the day. Add into that list today more numbers. No Rasmus. He's out for 3 weeks, potentially, with a muscle injury. Sure, also a muscle injury, basically out for the rest of the season for months to go. Still no Martinez, obviously. Still no Mount. Malacia possibly about to get back into training, but he's not there yet. It's like every week there's a new injury. Every week there's something new to pick up on. I kind of want to throw a question to you that's not even about the team just yet, because I know where you'll go with it. We'll ask Beanie the team question. I want to ask you, is Manchester United's medical department fit for purpose, or are we just unlucky? Because genuinely, that number of people missing for a Premier League football team just doesn't feel right.
I don't want to mention the other lot, but if you remember when Klopp came into Liverpool, there was about 16 months where their injury list was just off the chain. Every player with muscle injury, just constant for about 4 or 5 months. Players were just breaking down constantly, and it went over a season and a half. And I think it's they're adapting to the fact that he wants so much out of them in training, and then he wants to replicate it in the game, that they're picking up with these muscle injuries. I wouldn't necessarily blame the medical department, because the guy that we poached from Arsenal is like one of the top dogs of his profession. So it's just a weird one that it keeps happening. But I would more than guarantee that it's down to probably the intensity that they're training at. He's probably asking for a level that they're just not used to, and the bodies maybe can't cope with the recovery at the minute. Hopefully that changes. And I genuinely, it's going to sound weird to say, but I think some of these players may be at risk of the futures at the club because they can't stay fit. doing this brand of football. Like, I know Tone absolutely loves Luke Shaw, but there's got to be huge question marks over Luke Shaw going forward as a starting left back because he's not fit for more than 10 games at a time. And as good as he is when he's fit, you can't afford to be missing your best left back for 40 games a season. So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily blame the medical department, but there's definitely a question that's going to have to be asked about it going forward. Something's not quite right. You would argue that maybe if we're having this many breakdowns, he needs to lower the intensity in the training, if that is the problem, or come up with a different solution to the end of the season, which I'm sure we'll talk about when we talk about the lineup.
I mean, it's an interesting one. It really is an interesting one. And you look all over Twitter, there's people blaming the medical department, there's people blaming all manner of things. That's an interesting point. Andy, do you think that's kind of there in regards to what Dan's just said? I mean, Fulham was saying with Rasmus, the workload's too much. Kid came with a back injury week in, week out. He plays the full 90. He does play a lot of football. Where do you sort of stand on, first of all, that side of things, and then perhaps you could start taking us into what you think this lineup is going to look like? Because, like I say, there's no registered left back, which means we're likely to put either Lindelof or Amrabat there, potentially Dalot, but again, there's no Wan-Bissaka, as we're aware of. So, again, who would we then play at right back? We'll get to the forward line on the next question because that's slightly different. But, yeah, defensively, what do you reckon we're going to do with that?
On the injuries, I think, like Dan says, I think what he's expecting of them is probably more than they've had expected of them previously. But I do think he falls into the thing of rushing them back sometimes. I think he did that with Shaw. For me, I'm not sure if he was ready to start, but that's hindsight and all that. Rasmus, I think, as one of the comments just said, then I think pure workload. He's a young lad and he's just expected to just go 100% every game, and I think it's just going to take its toll. The back line, yeah, it's going to be Lindelof, isn't it? Going to be Lindelof at a push Amrabat, but probably Lindelof, which is awful for me. Maguire, Varane, Dalot. I wouldn't be upset to see Evans, to be honest. I thought he played very well against Luton. But yeah, I think it'll be very, very similar to what it is normally. But left back worries me massively.
I'm going to be cheeky, Barry, and just jump in because I got threatened with a sack last week.
You did? It's amazing
yeah.
you're still here.
Yeah, and I'm going to make the suggestion again that we should really be looking at maybe going to a back three because we've got more centre-backs fit than we have wing-backs. And the only solution to stop...
No, I'm going to throw this back to you now because we have the same argument over on the women's channel. We've got no full-backs over there for United either at the minute. Now, if you do that, who are you playing as your wing-backs?
So this is what I got threatened to sack for, but I think it's the only solution. I would play Dalot at left wing back.
Where are they going to be?
And then I would put Anthony at right wing back. And just because he can track his man and he knows how to defend in transition. He's very good at it in front of the right back. So could he do it as a right wing back? But I would much prefer to see something like that happen than us line up with Lindelof or Amrabat at left back, because I just feel like he'll get targeted constantly. Just something has to be different. I feel like if it's predictable, Fulham have probably worked all week on the fact that they could target one of the sides because it's going to be Lindelof or Amrabat. The only other suggestion that I could probably get on board with is Dalot left back in a 4 with that Kamwala at right back because he's got a little bit of pace and he might be a little bit better than Lindelof at left back. But yeah, I think he's got to do something drastic.
I was considering paying the groundsman, see if we could make it quite wet, get a waterlogged pitch. We haven't one of them at Old Trafford for a while.
The only other choice
that might do it.
The only other choice is a 16-year-old left back in Harry Amas, and that
at least he's a left back.
You can't chuck a left back in at 16 at Old Trafford. It's too much, if that makes sense. You can.
No, I think you can. I definitely
can.
Especially for tomorrow.
Yeah. Just so you know, you're being mocked by Twilumber, so just throw that out. And then it's all empty backs at the moment at United.
Yeah.
Sorry, and you're right. It absolutely is. There's no full.
But I genuinely, with the fact we've lost the left back for the entire season, I don't know how long Wan-Bissaka's going to be out for. So are we going to have to keep doing this every single week?
But the problem that you've got there is it's kind of irrelevant what you're doing, isn't it? Whether you put in somebody who's not a left back at left back, you're still somebody who's not a right back at right back.
Yeah.
I don't trust Anthony on the pitch at all. He might be a bit of a workhorse, but
well, interestingly, it's his birthday tomorrow, so I'm just hoping that he just like rounds off a good birthday with a good performance. You know what I mean?
It's the only good thing about it being his birthday is everybody's going to get cake.
Can you believe he's 24?
Sarah, we'll come to you for the sort of the Fulham looking. So we've had a little bit of a chat about it already, but obviously no Polina. First for 2-match suspension for him. Raul Jimenez out with a hamstring injury, so he's hamstrung. William's got a fitness test, so he might be available. We don't know for sure. I'm going to say this wrong probably, but Broja could be back potentially. What sort of a lineup are you expecting over there on the Fulham side of things?
Well, we've had a couple of players come back from the African Cup of Nations. So we've got Bassi and Iwobi, who are in the final for Nigeria. So even though Marco doesn't like to make too many changes, I do think that Bassi will come back in defence. Iwobi will come back in midfield. He's been forced to make a change because obviously Polina is suspended. I would go Harrison Reed. Reed is a work engine. Polina, as Dan sort of said, Polina plays two roles, really. He drives it forward. He's, like the engine, the heart of that midfield of the team. But then obviously he's got his defence as well. Reed doesn't necessarily play the two roles, but he's very much, gets stuck in and will drive the midfield forward. So I think he sort of should go with him. Depending on what happens with Willian, the Willian, Muniz, Kearney triangle has just been working superbly for us for the last few matches. I know we lost against Villa, but Muniz has scored 4 goals in his last 3 Premier League games, and I think it's because of that relationship between him, Kearney, and Willian. So that's sort of what I'm going for. Robinson and Tosin as well coming back in instead of Diop. Diop had a little bit of a mare last week against Villa, a couple of errors. He's a great defender, but he just loses concentration, and in the Premier League you can't do that. You'll be punished. And exactly, I get what you guys have been saying about your injuries, but I do think you've still got a great team, and I don't think we could risk somebody like Diop. So I definitely have Bassi and Tosin in the back.
Points. NT pointing out that Anthony tomorrow probably has more years on earth than shots on target for United. So me being me, NT, I thought I'd go and have a little look. And I can tell you that obviously he's scored 1 goal and he's given us 1 assist out of his 25 games that he's played so far. Just in case you're wondering, that is 0.07 goals per 90 minutes. It's 1,341 minutes per goal. He's had 20 shots so far, which is a 5% goal conversion rate and a shot accuracy of only 40%. So
that's right, Mike. That's right there.
I was just going to say, maybe we should because he's certainly not a right midfielder, that's for sure. Yes, okay. Dan, I suppose we should probably allow you a bit of time talking about the team. If you want to address the defence, you can. But for me, the big question is who goes up front. With Rasmus being out for the next couple of weeks, there is a lot of talk. I starred it. Let's put it up there so that people get their words. Here we go. Paul has said there's a rumour that Forson starts tomorrow. It's quite a strong rumour because I've seen it in lots and lots and lots of different places, not just in the usual sort of suspects. That's obviously a possibility. There's no Martial, shock. So he's not going to be able to come in and add to his goal tally. What do you see that front three as being? You would assume that Garnacho is going to be in there somewhere. You would assume that Rashford's going to be in there somewhere. People talking right at the very beginning, does Scott McTominay have more of a forward role? what do you see that front three looking like?
I mean, I would happily just put Scott McTominay up front and keep Rashford on the left and Garnacho on the right. McTominay would be a handful, and if he didn't have to do any tracking back, well, he still have to track back and press, but if he didn't have to come into midfield, I think it'd work for him. I've seen a lot of people talking about Ahmad today, but I genuinely think Forson's in a better place to start because he's been trusted with some minutes in some games, whereas Ahmad's not been trusted really at all. So it wouldn't shock me if Forson started. But I mentioned this earlier. I can't remember who I was talking to, but I mentioned that I think Ten Hag sort of backed himself again into a corner, and he did this last season. And I said last season it was an issue, and it's lack of rotation. And it means that when you need to rely on these players, they haven't had the minutes they need. So it's nearly impossible for them to hit the ground running. So if one of them can somehow do it tomorrow, absolutely fantastic. But he needs to learn a lesson from this because I saw somewhere that Højlund was actually limping a little bit towards the end of the last game and probably should have come off, and he didn't bring him off because I don't think he trusted anybody from his bench to do the same thing. So they just it's gonna be a struggle for them. Whoever they put out, there's gonna be questions asked, but not a problem with Forson starting. To be honest, I think it'll probably see Rashford go up front. I don't know whether that'll work or not, but we've got options. If it's not working, we've got McTominay, and if Forson's not having the greatest game in the world, I would trust Ahmad to have a go. But a difficult situation. We're just we seem to be really short in positions. Like Højlund being injured was called by everybody. So we should have got that. I might be wrong here, but we sent a left back in Regulion so we could get a striker in on loan. And now we haven't got a left back and we never got the striker. And that's not good, is it? It's poor from the club. And they've let Ten Hag down a bit.
Yeah, but not that he was brilliant, but at least
No.
he's a left. But yeah, there we go. Andrew saying, if Anthony doesn't start tomorrow, we have to sell him, in my opinion, because when's he going to get any opportunity? Seriously, and I think
we'd get 5p and a Snickers for him.
That's lucky. I reckon I'll be a Mars bar, no nuts.
Maybe it's like a birthday cake.
Swilumber says, NT's talking to Swilumber. He says he's got the engine at least and probably the will to track back, whereas Rashford could be a liability on that alone. He's a bit of a jogger at the minute. But talking of Rashford, Andy, I can remember a very similar situation under Louis van Gaal when we were looking for a striker and we put a young unknown up front. His name was Marcus Rashford, and he went on to currently be our top goal scorer at the club in terms of serving footballers. Do you think that tomorrow could be the start of a legend in terms of forcing getting his opportunity to come in and try and stake a claim on the team? Or do you think the fact that we've already seen him a couple of times already sort of rules out that surprise factor?
I think Forson coming in, I've got no problem with that. I'd rather him than Anthony, but the part of my head thinks that Ten Hag got such an allegiance to Anthony that the opportunity will be there and he'll put him in. But Rashford up top, I'm all for that. I think when he's on his game, he's a great finisher. And if he can get the service, as we say about Højlund, if he can get the service, I have no problem with Rashford. I just hope he doesn't do anything like putting Bruno on the right and trying to put someone else at, do you know what I mean? I want to keep it as normal as we have, as little sort of, do you know what I mean? So if Forson goes on the right, then, so be it.
I'm not going to lie, Andy, I hadn't even thought about that. And now you've told me that, I'm not sure I'm going to get to sleep tonight. Because
broke my heart.
Yeah. Could it be Bruno on the right, McTominay in the 10?
He's done it before, hasn't
he? Yeah.
Ahmad maybe in the 10 when I don't know, but he might. You're not wrong. I'd forgotten about that because he'd been quite normal.
Sorry.
I think we best talk about Fulham for a bit so I can see if I can get that out of my head. Otherwise, it's going to be very gloomy.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game more and more as this conversation goes on now.
This happened last time with a Luton fan, and they didn't do too bad. What I will say is NT's got a bit of advice for you here, Sarah. He says, word of advice, most Oppo fans that come on off United with confidence usually lose. So a bit of caution like you're showing could mean you actually get the 3 points tomorrow. So I think what we're saying there is a little bit more optimism might help us get over the line. You've spoken a bit about your starting lineup. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of your Actually, I'd like to know your opinion. Who would you most like to have for the United attack? Would you prefer it if Anthony was starting? Is there, a particular starting lineup for United up top that you think would be preferable for your lot? But then also a little bit about what your front line might be like. I mean, Bobby de Cordova-Reid, obviously your top goal scorer at the moment with 6 and 3 assists. You've got Rodrigo Muniz. He's had 32 shots, the most of any Fulham player so far. Obviously, Willian, if he does play, brilliant. He's got a good shot accuracy. Whereabouts do you stand in terms of your attackers? Do you feel like there's any weaknesses in the United attack and defence that your guys might be able to exploit?
I mean, I must admit, as we've sort of already said, Højlund, it is a big loss for you guys. And then the question is, that who do you replace him with? And like you guys, I've seen that Fulham, everyone seems to be sort of saying that would be the replacement. From a Fulham point of view, it's one of those, because he's an unknown entity, just because he's only played, I think, a couple of FA Cup games, came on against Wolves. You think he's an unknown entity, so is that a good or a bad thing for you guys? The fact that he provided the assist against Wolves to score the goals, you think he looks like he's a good player, so possibly not. Obviously, Anthony with his record, but then Fulham, we always do, for example, Burnley hadn't won away for however long, 27 years. We beat Arsenal. The next game at home, Burnley beat us 2-0. So we never, ever know. And I think Anthony, his birthday, he's got a lovely cake. He'll probably come on and score for you guys against us. That's just how it sort of seems to be. So personally, I'd quite like to see Fulham start, just because to see what he's like. And we've got no real expectation tomorrow. We really don't. You've seen the stats. We don't really do well at Old Trafford. So I would have liked to see him start. But I do think if Anthony starts, we've possibly, with our defence, we've got a good chance against him.
I mean, honestly, it's quite easy to defend against, what side he's going. I'm surprised nobody's coming in and said Charlie McNeil yet. He usually gets a shout out for giving somebody a chance up front. So we'll wait for somebody to throw that out there. NT suggested we might put Garner on the right, Forson on the left, with Rashford up front. I mean, I'm not convinced. I reckon Rashford will be left, Forson up front if we were going to go for it. But who knows? Like, you could put Amrabat at left back. So we really, really don't know. Exactly. We all know what Ten Hag is likely to do. Indeed. And then she said, I can't see Ten Hag not playing Anthony, which I hope you're wrong, I suppose, because we've done quite well without him. Okay. Dan, we've spoken a lot about where our goals have come from in terms of Højlund. He's scored 13 so far this season. He's by far the best striker we've got at the club in terms of stats. He's the one getting all the goals. He's got the best metrics. But when you start looking beyond that, it doesn't change the fact that we've still got an absolute machine, providing he plays in the right position, in Bruno Fernandes. 60 shots that man has had, which is a bit worrying when you consider he's only scored 7, because it's about 20 more than any other player at the club. But equally, he's had 1,687 passes, which is 79% accuracy. This man has the ability to just have a game like a puppeteer, doesn't he? How important tomorrow is Bruno Fernandes going to be to Manchester United getting a result?
If he's playing on the right, not very. if he's playing where he should be playing, very. I'm hoping that him and Garnacho can still provide each other with enough to make the difference. But it's who we look to pretty much even when Højlund started, and you're still looking at Fernandes to make the difference. But I still maintain that he needs those around him to up the level a little bit. He's still being asked to do too much off the ball, and he's not getting to do what he's the very, very best at. And And I can say he's very, very best at it because every metric says he's the best at it since he joined Man United in the Premier League. So he just needs to be given the freedom to do what he wants to do, and everybody else sort of needs to back him up doing it. I think Andy's right. He's due a goal tomorrow. He's definitely overdue a goal as well. And we're overdue a penalty. So if we can get a goal from a penalty, that'd be even better. But no, he's going to be absolutely massive for us. If he doesn't show up and then Garnacho doesn't show up, you're starting then to struggle for a match winner. I know Rashford's I personally think Rashford's looked a lot better in the last few weeks, but he's still not provided us with many winners. And then if not, it's going to be McTominay off the bench again, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, McTominay not doing bad, as we know, second top goal scorer with 8, Bruno is 7. So I don't know, we'll see how that goes. Andy, I suppose my biggest worry about the front three now is that we've just got to a point where we was getting a bit of harmony, a bit of cohesion, working together quite well. Everybody's starting to find Rasmus a bit more. He's making those moves. Tomorrow we go into a game where we've got a new player that's not necessarily making the moves that Rasmus is making. Is that something that we need to worry about? The fact that tactically a lot's going to have changed. We're not necessarily going to have fullbacks bombing on, trying to help support our attackers. And equally, even when we do get forward, we're not going to have a front line that is quite as cohesive.
Yeah, I think so massively. I think even with the loss of Shaw, I think less attacking would have been a lot different because Lindelof just isn't going to do what Shaw does, is he? But now you take Rasmus out of that as well. You'd like to think that Bruno and Rashford have enough sort of connection between themselves. They've played together long enough now. Whoever plays on the right, be it Forson or Anthony, they need to just like lock it in. Like, do you know what I mean? They need to put a shift in. I'd like to see if it's his birthday tomorrow, that's his day, innit? You'd wake up in the morning, you'd be like, this is my day. He's gonna, take it with both hands, but he just won't. And if Garnacho don't show up, then if like Dan says, if our big players don't show up, I think it's there for Fulham for the taking, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And Andrew saying he was definitely due a big performance, and also Garnacho seems to prefer a home goal recently. So who knows? Maybe. Sarah, your form at the moment has been, shall we say, consistently inconsistent. Is a reasonable way of putting it. Obviously, a loss to Villa in your last game, but you did beat Bournemouth. A draw against Burnley and a draw against Everton. A loss against Newcastle, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But then a draw against Liverpool. So you are capable of going out there and getting a result against, shall we say, some of the bigger teams in the Premier League. Is that the sort of thing that you're looking for here, that you're thinking that maybe a draw would be a good result for you? What does the general sort of gist of a Fulham fan feel at the moment?
I think, a draw, we would be definitely happy with that result. This is the first season that we've beaten since Marco Silva took over, and we've been in the Prem, that we've beaten one of the big six when we beat Arsenal at home on New Year's Eve. And that for us was such a confidence boost because, we hadn't done it in the previous season. We were, halfway through near enough this season. So to get that, it's like, we can do it. And as you say, we went to Anfield. There was the fantastic 4-3 game at Anfield in the league. Then we played them in the semi-final. It was 2-1 at Anfield. So, both games were close. We then drew in the second leg at home. So we've now got this confidence, whilst we are incredibly inconsistent. As I said, beat Arsenal, lose 2-0 at home to Burnley, go 2-0 up at Turf Moor, and then Burnley peg us back for a 2-2 draw. So we're completely inconsistent, but we do have this confidence now that, we can do something against the bigger teams. And I think after last season as well, 70th minute, we're 1-0 up at Old Trafford, and it was our own demise. It was Willian getting sent off, Mitro losing his head, Marco losing his head. It just turns into complete chaos. which lost us that game. So I think that's something that we'll have in the back of our minds as well, that for 70 minutes we were 1-0 up at Old Trafford, and I think we can sort of take a lot apart from that.
No, fair points indeed. Dan, looking at our games at the moment, obviously we've got Fulham tomorrow. This is a start of a reasonable sort of run of fixtures if you're a United fan. You know, we've got Fulham tomorrow, we've got Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup in midweek, obviously the big game against Manchester City, but then Everton, Sheffield United, Brentford. You can throw Chelsea in there, really. They're a little club now, aren't they? So you start looking at those. See, I knew the Fulham fan would enjoy that one. Just down the road. Threw that one in there for you. But it's a nice run of fixtures. It's important that we win this tomorrow, isn't it? Because that sets us up on that run, continues that confidence, that momentum, all of the sort of things that we need going into it. This, if we get it wrong tomorrow, could it potentially derail? And I think it was ridiculous, really. It was only last week we were going, top four could potentially be back on. But are we in a situation again where literally just this one result could cause us to drop out of that? Because the win puts us level on points with Spurs because they're not playing tonight. So as a result, we could be level on points with Spurs and quite close to the top four. Alternatively, tomorrow, we could be not level on points with Spurs, still 3 points behind them. They've got the game in hand. And, you know, it's all looking a bit bleak again.
Yeah, the issue is we've only got room for probably one or two more slip-ups before the end of the season. So if we... And that they're slip-ups because we've got to play like Arsenal, we've got to play Man City. They're the sort of ones that you could argue we maybe could afford because the other teams have got to play them. We can't afford to be slipping up at Old Trafford against Fulham. They're inconsistent enough that we should beat them. But again, looking at the fixtures, even though we've won so many of the last 10 meetings or 12 meetings, they're very close games. And the FA Cup one in particular, I think we probably lose that game until Fulham absolutely implode.
Yeah.
So we can't afford to slip up. It's just been a crazy league. I'm genuinely at this point, I think we're just jinxed. I think we could somehow win tomorrow and then, I don't know, Garnacho will be out for 3 weeks. It's just, we seem to be on the wrong end of the luck this season. It is frustrating because, again, I don't like to bang this narrative drum too much. But I've not seen any sort of sympathy for the injuries we've had this season from the media. But in comparison to Spurs, Newcastle and Liverpool, there's 25-minute shows about how unlucky they've been. And, can you believe that Mo Salah's missing? And can you believe that Virgil van Dijk's missed 2 games? And it's infuriating as a United fan because we're Man United, we should deal with it. But you just can't see that we are literally down to the bare bones, to the point it would be a 16-year-old left back coming in if we was going to play a left back. And like you say, people have shouted for Charlie McNeil. At least he's a striker. If you're going to go down that road, it's a player that's probably kicked the ball for Man United once. And it's just that's where we're at the minute. So yeah, I'm going to stick to the game at a time stuff. We need to just stick one game at a time. The frustrating thing for me is these lads play for Man United. So tomorrow, Forsen, if he gets to start, needs to take that with both hands. And if he can go and do something on that Old Trafford pitch, and I'd be banging on the manager's door the next day saying, I deserve another chance. I've done that again. Do you know what I mean? And it's a chance for these lads to take some shine away from the so-called first teamers and prove that people like me who have been saying, give Ahmad a chance, give Forsen a chance, or just dip into the youth if you have to, that there's enough to do that. But having said that, I'm not overly confident. We'll just game by game for me.
Fair enough. Just so you're aware, if you see my eyes dipping away, it's because I've got the England game on as well at the same time. That's England women against Austria, and it's 4-1 at the moment. There's still 23 minutes left to go, and it's Arsenal 3, Manchester United and Spurs by default 1 as well, with Beth Mead having scored a couple, Leslie Russo having scored 1, boo, Leslie Russo, and also Grace Clinton, who's of course on loan from Manchester United at Spurs at the moment. So keep up to date with the final score of that one when it comes on. Andy, by the end of tomorrow, we could be 2 points off of the top 4. We could equally, like Dan's just said, not be in that situation. Where are you sort of standing on this season? Because there's so much hope with everything that's coming with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the way that he's spoken this week, everything seems positive. And I just can't help but feel that whenever Manchester United feel like something positive is happening, like Dan's already just got Garnacho injured for the next 3 weeks, so cheers for that, Dan. Now we've hit this point where everything's looking like it could be really good. It just feels like somebody's getting ready to take our legs away from under us again, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe we're in the position we're in, to be honest, this season. After the way it went early doors in the season, the fact that we can be level on points with Spurs tomorrow, I'd have snapped your hand off if you'd have said that a few months back. But yeah, I think I have that a little bit like you in the back of my head that we're due for a defeat or something bad's going to happen. These last like 5 or 6 games have just gone too much in our favour for me, and I'm the pessimist in me says that something's going to happen. But you know, like Dan says, you just take one game at a time, don't you? And you know, fingers crossed and all that. But yeah, I'm waiting for something.
You certainly do. It's happened again. It's 5-1. It looks like Jess Carter might have just scored with a cheeky little back heel. But then equally, I don't know if she's actually going to claim that or not. But it looks like it's 5-1. I don't think they can find a way out of that one. Doesn't look like the linesman's flag's up. So there we go. 5-1 now. And with Jess Carter, that now ruins everything you were just saying there, NT, because she's Chelsea and nothing to do with United. So unlucky us. Sarah, your position at the moment is 12th, I do believe. Yes, indeed. And, you know, in fairness to you, I mean, it's going to take a pretty poor run of results to drag you anywhere near the dramas that are happening at the bottom of the league, but equally puts you in a situation where you're not really likely to be coming up and shouting for European positions or anything like that. So it does kind of feel like in the league, really, it's just a case of just rumbling along and making sure you don't get dragged into the dramas below and just finishing as high as you possibly can. Talking about a run for United, obviously after us, you get the joys of playing the likes of Brighton, Wolves, then you've got Spurs coming up as well, and then Sheffield United and Nottingham Forest. So even within your run of games, you're in a situation where, again, they're teams that you could harbour reasonable optimism of getting points from. So do you kind of feel like a win tomorrow for you guys would give you that impetus that you need to go into those games, especially missing some of your best players and the likes of Polinia there, that if you was to able to nick a win, that would really ignite the rest of your season and potentially lead you to a top half finish?
Yeah, definitely. I think with Polinia, we've sort of resigned ourselves to the fact that he's probably off in the summer. Everyone had their fingers crossed in January, just counting down those days till the window shut, and he's still a Fulham player. But I think we all know after what happened at the end of last season, he's probably off. So the next 2 games are an opportunity for players to sort of say, we don't need him. You know, we can still do this without him. So, you know, if you do sell him, and, you know, it was reported that the chairman's son, Tony Khan, this week said, you know, if we get a good enough offer, we'll take it. So I do think we need to start planning for life after Polinia. And these 2 games, exactly what you say, they give us the opportunity to show we don't necessarily need him. We're okay without him. And we can push on and, you know, try and achieve as high a finish as possible. Last season, we completely overachieved. We absolutely overachieved. Mitro was obviously a huge loss to us, and we did struggle to score goals at the very beginning of the season. Now with Muniz and we had Vinicius, who's now gone to Galatasaray on loan, we have started to sort of score the goals. So I think it is if we do get a result tomorrow, it is a very important game for us, more than just what you were just saying about pushing us on. It sort of also gives us hope that there is life after João Polinia.
I mean, NT saying here, won't United supposedly monitoring him, whatever that means. I think that means you plug it into the base unit and then you can see what's on the screen. I can't be sure. Sarah, I just wanted to ask you, in terms of Palhinha, what does he bring to your club? You know, you mentioned that he's such a big miss potentially, and you also, in the same breath, then mentioned obviously you want to be able to play without him. But what does he bring? What do you think Fulham are going to be missing tomorrow that they would normally have?
He, as I said earlier, he plays two roles. He absolutely plays two roles. He fits in so perfectly with the defence. So if the defence are going forward, he can go deep. He can step back, and we've still got that solid defence. He's known for his tackles. I mean, I think he's on, you know, something like 100 odd tackles already. He's the highest tackles in European football, and he has said he loves a tackle more than he actually loves to score a goal. That's his game. But he's also the playmaker as well. He's the heart of that midfield, and his distribution and the runs forward just really set the forward line on fire. And yeah, he's a great player. And how we got him for like 20 million on like a 5-year contract, it was just amazing business, amazing piece of business. I've been supporting Fulham now for just over 45 years. I've never ever had a player like him at Fulham. Normally we get, you know, when we got Berbatov, stunning player, amazing. He was at the end of his career. You know, we get them as they're coming to the end of their career, and Palhinha is peak. So it's been great for Fulham supporters to have him in the team.
Berbatov, yeah, he was all right when he wasn't too bad. In the wall, obviously, NT. Where else would you put a plug? Silly question that is. Sometimes you can lead. I can't even believe you're having to ask that. Where else would you put a plug? That's crazy. Right, I think I've covered all the stuff that I desperately had written down in terms of that. So I suppose we're not a million miles away from our predictions. So Dan, I'm going to ask you that question. What do you reckon? United, what are you thinking?
Firstly, Man United should be bidding for Palhinha in the summer. When we talk about replacement for Casemiro, he's there. He's done it in the Premier League. He's been absolutely fantastic. I would chuck a 60 to 70 million bid at him and hope they accept it. He's literally a ready replacement. Scoreline, I'm going to say we're not going to keep a clean sheet. I'm going to say 3-1 United. I feel like Rashford's going to turn up.
Interesting. I mean, Rashford's definitely going to turn up. I don't think he's going to be allowed to not be there.
Well, I feel like he's going to break away from a jog.
Be interesting, wouldn't it? Very interesting. Andy, what do you foresee happening? If you had to take a little guess on how the game's going to unfold tomorrow, what are you thinking? Because Dan's not the first one to say 3-1. Simon Davies mentioned it earlier on in the comments. Andrew Talbot's going 2-1 with a last-minute winner from Anthony. I think Andrew's there. Andrew 3-1. What are you thinking today?
I wouldn't be surprised if Fulham took the lead. To be honest, the last few games with Fulham I can remember were quite difficult. I remember them playing quite well, so I can see them maybe coming out the traps quite quickly at us. And, you know, we don't defend great when sides press on us and stuff. But I think we'll have enough for them tomorrow. As soon as the game settles down, I think we'll have enough. I'd like to see a Bruno goal. I think, like you say, I think he's due one. Bruno and Rashford, I'll go 2-1.
Fair enough. Sarah, bearing in mind what NT told you earlier on, we've got people like Twillenberg going 4-1. I'm presuming that's Man United because he's written the 4 at home, but you can never tell with Twillenberg. What do you reckon, Sarah?
I think I'll go sort of, if I'm going with my heart, 2-1. It's going to be 2-1 Fulham. But if I'm going with my head, it's 3-1. Yeah, all day long to you guys, 3-1. I genuinely can't see us getting anything tomorrow. But as I say, if we're thinking with my heart, then 2-1. Mooney's and Anthony own goal. So he scores on his birthday.
Play him right back.
Yeah.
It's the sort of goal that scores, to be fair.
And just to back up Andy's point there, I've just had a quick look at the previous results, and Fulham have taken the lead. They took the lead in the 2-1 loss at Fulham. They took the lead in the 3-1 FA Cup win, and they took the lead in the 2-1 Premier League loss as well. Well, they lost all the games, but they took the lead in all three of them.
Yeah.
So
it's one of the things that we are good at. You know, we're on the front foot from the off, and as Andy was saying, there are some teams that like to get into the game, which you know could work against you guys.
See, I'm a little bit worried because you mentioned Reed, and Reed is very good at controlling the midfield, and so I'm hoping Reed doesn't play, because it seems whenever someone plays that likes to control the midfield a little bit, we struggle. So I'm hoping he doesn't play. I'm hoping to go for the other guy that's not as good as Paulinho, that gets booked just as much.
I've heard that Southgate is meant to be there tomorrow, and there's a bit of a rumour that they're looking at Reed for potentials for the friendlies that are coming up in March. So if he does play, and if Southgate's there, he'll want to put on a show.
Fair enough. NT's gone 2-1. Hoping we avoid defeat, though. Being optimistic. He's also said, no one's given us a heart and head result, Sarah, so this has a draw written all over it. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. Nobody has. So I've got a little game for the three of you now, because as I say, I was looking through my stats and throwing all of that out there. And looking at the website I was looking at, I won't tell you just in case Dan decides to cheat. He likes to do that every now and again. There is a player for both sides who has got a 100% shot accuracy for both sides. So in other words, they've had one shot and they scored from it. Do you know who that player is? There's one for Fulham, one for Manchester United. And I'm just intrigued to see if anybody can guess who that might be.
Well, it's definitely not Anthony.
Definitely. Because we've already discussed that, haven't we?
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I think you mean that's playing now, don't you? You don't mean that's played for both teams?
No, not for both teams. I can confirm that the player for our side has played 10 games and the player for Fulham has played 20 games.
Evans?
It's a lot harder for us. I can confirm it's not Lewis Suha, because he's not playing this season.
He was fantastic.
Was nice try with Iwobi, but no. Although Iwobi is not a bad shout at all. Certainly not Bruno. He scored loads. I don't know that I've worded this question. This season, currently playing this season.
Just trying to think it. I mean, Bobby Decordova-Reid scored a lot for us, but I don't know if he's
literally
a
one shot, one goal.
One shot, one goal.
This is a good one.
Maguire did score this season, but he's had more than one shot.
Only scored one.
So it's basically a player that's got to be a fringe player that's some got a goal from somewhere.
I'm going to give you all a chance to think about it, because I'm nice like that, and also because nobody really wants to watch us all just sitting here scratching our heads. So yeah, we'll think about that. I'll come back to you at the end of the stream, because I do have one more question left for each of you, which has got nothing really to do with the match, but that actually I think would be remiss of us not to talk about. So for Dan and Andy, I'm going to ask you just your thoughts basically on what you've heard from the Sir Jim interview, the fact that he's come out and said all of the things that he said. Just a general overview, really, how you're feeling about Sir Jim Ratcliffe and all of the some positive and some seemingly negative things that Twitter's managed to jump on as well. But generally, are we happy? Do we feel like we've got somebody in at the club who actually cares about us once again?
This is too hard to answer currently for me. I liked a lot of what he said, but some of it was in terms of a certain player that may or may not return. I would say it was 80% positive with 20% underlying that it could be an issue still. I'm going to go back to the whole, you don't get a moral billionaire. There isn't such a thing as a moral billionaire. He seems to want the right things for the club, and he's talking about it's not about money for him, it's not about profit. He's just wants to leave a legacy, which is fantastic to hear. Obviously, we spoke about the women maybe getting the stadium and them not knocking down Old Trafford if they build a new one, which it sounds like they could possibly look at. He seems to be saying all the right things, but I want to see what happens beyond the end of the season before I make a full judgment on him, because he could, in my opinion, this is obviously just my opinion, I don't speak for anybody else, but he could do all these things correctly. But if he clicks his fingers and a certain player returns to the club, all of that is then instantly undone for me. So it's a wait and see for me, but he's definitely saying the right things, but it's whether those actions are the same as what he's said long term.
Yeah, mate, fair points. I mean, we'll come back to that again. It's this season, boys and girls. It's this season. Berbatov, I don't think, has kicked a ball for either United or Fulham this season. So I'm hoping he wrote.
It's still doing a job for us.
Just in case people still want to play this season. We're not going to throw in any more Fulham and Man United players. If there are such, we can't go back and give it Georgie Best as well. It's not what we're doing here. So
Paul Parker, my all-time favourite, Paul Parker.
There you go. Yeah,
quality.
Paul Parker down the right. I can tell you the answers haven't been put in there yet, so nobody's got it right. So feel free, keep guessing. You'll get there eventually.
Can I ask a quick question on it?
If you must.
Is the player still at the club?
Oh, now that would be giving something away.
Okay, Daniel. I know it is then.
Makes me wonder like you might have Googled it now, but we'll see. On what you just said, I completely agree, 100%, and I've already tweeted that. You know, I personally, I'm really excited about the things that I'm hearing coming from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but I've said it 1,000,001 times already. If that player does come back, then that's the last you'll see of me on AFU, because there'll be no way I can look after a club that is going to allow somebody like that to return. So that's my one. But Andy, if we were thinking about the more positive stuff rather than that particular question, to be fair, he doesn't really go one way or the other with it. It was a very neutral sort of answer. So, you know, we can't take from that he's saying, yes, he definitely will turn up. What did you make of the other stuff? The stuff about the ground, the fact that he wants to take us back to being a fighting force in Europe and winning things. All in all, quite positive, really, wasn't it? I know that Andrew says actions speak louder than words, which it absolutely does. But, I mean, we've heard more from Sir Jim in 24 hours than we heard from the Glazers in 20 years.
Yeah, I think that's what's quite nice about it. It's nice to have a face. I know he's not the owner, but it's nice to have a face in that position. A lot of what he said, I think, is very positive. I like the team he's trying to build with Ashworth, probably potentially Blanc, Brailsford. I like that he's trying to put the right people together in the right places. The ground, you know, my heart would say I want to stay at Old Trafford, but yeah, maybe a new one is the best thing. But yeah, everything that he's saying, I think, is positive. Whether it will come to fruition, what he's on about, but yeah, I'm Team Jim at the minute, and we'll see what happens.
You're not kidding. It's game on for England because Austria have just pulled one back. It's 5-2 with 3 minutes to go. Oh, could you imagine what a moment that would be? Sarah, my question for you is twofold. The first of which, this guy's been brought up, which I wanted to ask you about. Andreas Pereira, obviously ex-Man United, and we know that he's done pretty well for you this season. 6 assists, 1 goal, and he's created the most chances for your team as well with 61. So, you know, we know he's quite good. But yeah, your opinions basically on how he's got on for the club. But then I also wanted to ask you a little bit about how your club's run. at the moment and how you're feeling, because certainly when I was going through Twitter and was searching for some people to come on and talk, seems like there might be one or two little issues, and maybe people aren't really aware of it. So it'd be quite interesting to hear if you're currently quite happy with how Fulham is being run.
I mean, with regards to AP, he's been brilliant for us. He really has. I mean, it's we've got the whole Willian, Andreas, Rodrigo Muniz. We had Carlos Vinicius as well. It's that whole samba, and for us at Fulham, we've not seen football like that for a long time, and it's been great. He got injured towards the back end of last season, and the first 2-3 months of this season he just wasn't himself, but since sort of Christmas he's really come back into his own, and he's a great player. He really is. And we there's actually, again, there are all these rumours that the Brazilian manager is going to come over and take a look at him and Rodrigo Muniz for possible inclusion as well. And for AP, that would be great to see sort of him in the Brazilian team. Be brilliant. With regards to the other stuff, there's quite a bit going on at Fulham at the moment. One of the main things is its Affordable Fulham campaign. So last season, Fulham announced the ticket prices, season ticket prices. The minimum increase for season tickets was 18%. That was the minimum. The average price increase for season tickets was 25%. We have the most expensive non-corporate seats in European football in the new Riverside stand, which are £3,000 a season. You just get a seat for that. There's no corporate hospitality or anything included. And it's in a stand which was due to be completed 2 seasons ago and is not due to be completed for another 2 seasons. So it's just the prices are ridiculous. When we played you guys, it was, I think, £160 for 1 seat in the Riverside. Kids tickets, 83 quid. The Fulham Lilies have recently put together a report about taking young children and under-2s to football. A lot of clubs, fantastic, offer a lot of facilities. They offer free tickets for children. Fulham don't. So if you are a 2-month-old baby and you were at the Man United game, you would have had to have paid £83 to sit in your parents' lap, which is the most expensive in the Premier League. So it's just, our owners are American owners. They also own the Jacksonville Jaguars American football team, so they operate on a very different model, which I'm sure you and a lot of the people watching this will be very familiar with. And it's very much they're making hay while the sun shines, whilst we are a Premier League team in a beautiful stadium in West London. They are charging horrendous ticket prices because they know the tourists will snap them up. And whenever we play you guys and whenever we play Liverpool, half the ground is full of away supporters in the home end, because your supporters will pretty much pay anything to see their team. So it is a really huge problem for Fulham at the moment, the affordability, pricing out loyal supporters. And we're not a team that can guarantee Premier League football. We know that, there are, I would say, sort of 8 to 10 clubs in the Premier League that can't guarantee that they will be there forever, and we're one of those. And we just worry, if we do go back down to the Championship, where all these loyal supporters going to come from.
No, absolutely fair. If you're worried about the England, don't worry about it. They've just gone and scored 2 goals in all of the time that Sarah was speaking there. Just to tell you just about everything that's happened there.
I didn't think I spoke for that long.
Do you know what I mean? It wasn't. That's my whole point. Lauren James hit the post. Beth Mead stuck it in. It's an ex-United player. and the United fan, and Rachel Daly has just managed to net one as well. So 7-2 is the score there. That's why I've sat in this lovely position here to watch the telly. But genuinely, what you were just saying there, that's absolutely mental. £83 for a kid and £160 for an adult is just ridiculous. And it prices people out of football, and then people wonder why so many people want to go and watch the women's game where it is much more affordable. So fair points. Right. Dan, you think you know the answer. What is the answer?
I think it might be Hannibal.
It is Hannibal. Absolutely.
City goal.
Brighton.
Did indeed have one shot and one goal. Sarah, any luck
Was it
from
against
you?
Brighton?
It
The
might
City,
be.
was it?
Remember him hitting me one from outside the box when we were getting battered, that's all.
Well, I'm sort of thinking defender, so it's for me. I don't know. Diop. It's a
It's
Diop.
not Diop. If I give you his first name, it's Tim.
Ream.
Tim Ream.
Oh,
There you
sorry,
go.
Ream.
Yeah, there you go. 100% for him. One shot and one goal. It isn't bad, but yeah, 20 games and he's had one shot and then it went. So maybe you should shoot some more.
Yeah.
Who knows? We should see. Don't do it tomorrow, Tim.
Yeah.
Oh, well done, Barry.
Cheers,
All that
Barry.
time I've
Thank
done it
you.
down and I've done it myself now.
I'm phoning Marco up after this. Forget what I said about the defence. Put Ream on.
But there we go. Well, that is Fulham well and truly previewed, boys and girls. It's been an absolute pleasure to have that chat. The England game is pretty much over now. They're into the last seconds, so I'm sure they're not going to score again. But yes, tomorrow is Saturday, and we will be back here to review everything that's happened on the Saturday. I mentioned it already, the Saturday at 3:00 fixture that we don't usually get to play. So big game Saturday at 3. We're reviewing that tomorrow, and then Sunday straight back into the preview because Monday's a busy night for AFU and Tuesday is a busy night for me and Dan. So therefore, we are going to be previewing the Nottingham Forest FA Cup match on Sunday evening, and then of course Thursday we'll be back again to review everything that's gone on in that match, where hopefully United have come out of it with a win and will be in the next round of the FA Cup. Because if not, what else are we playing for this season other than the hope that we might make it into the top 4? Andy, lovely to have you back on the show again. Do you want to shout your TikTok out to know there's people that might want to come and watch you rant and rave on there?
Yeah, it's Andy B MUFC, I think, and just all things United. A few digs at Liverpool, as you do, but yeah, it's all fun and games over there if you want to come and have a look.
Absolutely. And Sarah, obviously, you mentioned a little bit about Fulham Lilies. I asked you, obviously, off screen, what was going on with all that, but feel free to give a little shout out to them and why it is you are called the Fulham Lilies. What is all that about?
So Fulham's original ground was in Lily Road, which is why we've got the spelling of lilies that we've got. And one of the founders of the original Fulham was John Linney. And also lilies mean rebirth. So we just felt that because we'd started up this group, which is encouraging more female participation in football, whether that's in the male game or in the women's game, we just thought that was bringing those two together was a good thing.
It sounds like the antithesis to Joey Barton, and quite frankly, I'm all for that. So absolutely. So yeah, go and have a little follow them if you'd like to. It's at Fulham Lilies, is that right?
It is, yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. So feel free to jump onto that. Dan, are you bothering tomorrow? Are you with us or?
Yes, I'm with you tomorrow. It'll be Sunday that I might not be.
It's outrageous. Yeah, he's not going to be with us on Sunday. So come for dinner, would you believe?
I know. Going for a treat.
Honestly, I'm going to have to chat with Connor about you. It's outrageous sort of behaviour. But no, all good. So keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open on Twitter. Make sure you are paying attention to everything that's going on at All for United, because there are shows galore. We've got things in the pipeline that I'm genuinely looking forward to. So let's hope you're there with us. I agree, NT. It's a lovely touch. And as Andrew says, let's hope we win. Come on, United. I just hope it's a good game, and as nice as it is to have Sarah here, yes, we do want to win as well. So hope you enjoy it, but not so much. Have a lovely evening, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.